Hello everyone, and welcome to the Positive Choices webinar series. And thank you for joining us today. Before we begin today's webinar, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture. I am currently in the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I further acknowledge the traditional owners of the country you are on and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So today's webinar is on using positive choices to plan and deliver effective drug education. My name is Tara Gukul and I'm the project coordinator for the Positive Choices website, which is based at the Matilda Centre for Research in Mental Health and Substance Use at the University of Sydney. Firstly, I'm going to be presenting on the prevalence of drug and alcohol use amongst Australian youth, and then I'll then discuss what drug education approaches are effective. I'll then pass on to our second presenter for today, Dr. Smriti Nepal, who will explain the resources available on the Positive Choices portal and how you can use positive choices to help with your drug education lessons. And we'll also be joined by Scarlett Smout and Dr. Lauren Gardner, who will give us a case study of an evidence-based program you can use in your classrooms. So before we begin, I'd just like to give some details about the webinar session. You're currently in listen-only mode, which means we'll not be able to see or hear you. And we are recording this session and it will be made available through Positive Choices along with the slideshow of the presentation afterwards. And we're open to questions, so as the session progresses, please feel free to add your questions to the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen on Zoom, and we'll address these at the end. So let's get started by looking at drug and alcohol use amongst young Australians. Now, the most recent Australian-wide survey data we have is from 2017. And among secondary school students aged 12 to 17, we can see that 46% had consumed alcohol and 5% binge drink on a weekly basis. We also can see that 15% had used cannabis. For smoking, we can see that 13% had smoked cigarettes and 13% have also used an e-cigarette at least once. And we know that e-cigarettes and vaping is an emerging area, and we're planning on doing a webinar later in the year focusing on vaping. And we've also recently added a new fact sheet on e-cigarettes to the Positive Choices website if you are looking for more information on the topic. However, though, there is some good news. And compared to 2011, fewer adolescents reported drinking alcohol in 2017. We can see that in 2011, 74% had drank alcohol, and now in 2017, the number has dropped to about 66%. And youth are also delaying at the age that they're having their first drink. So in 2001, people were having their first drink at about 14 and a half years old. And now in 2019, that age is 16.2 years old. And finally, the number of adolescents who don't smoke has been increasing since 2011. So we can see that now 82% of young people are not smoking. This can then raise the question, sort of, why are we seeing these changes in statistics? And it's likely that there isn't one specific reason, but it could include things like changes in parenting or rule setting and policy or education. So why are teenagers using alcohol and other drugs? On the slide are some of the risk factors for alcohol and drug use amongst teenagers. And these can include peer use and the lack of confidence to assert your own choices. So we know it's important for young people to be able to say no, but for some, this can be a difficult or awkward situation to handle. There's also the perception that everyone is doing it. So this is known as the normative perception, and data shows that teenagers often overestimate how much their peers are using. It's therefore important that teachers and parents correct these misconceptions. And lastly, parental attitudes, monitoring, and rule setting. These factors can influence teenagers' access and values towards alcohol. So next, let's look at what drug education approaches are effective. So first of all, why should we invest in drug education? Research consistently shows that substance use peaks in adolescence, so between 10 and 19, as well as young adulthood, so between 20 to 24. And it tends to decline after the mid-20s. The harms related to use of drugs and alcohol are significant both to society and general, and for individuals who are also affected by it. And some examples of negative outcomes related to early initiation of drug and alcohol use can include earlier school dropout and poor performance at school, increased risk of developing co-occurring mental health problems such as anxiety and depression, and increased risk of related problems later in life, such as dependency and mental illness into adulthood. So regardless of the type of prevention that you're choosing to deliver, it needs to occur early before this initiation or experimentation period begins. And this is why schools are an ideal setting for drug education. Schools have the opportunity for broad reach, and they can tailor messages at various developmental levels. And they can also target the known risk factors like that perception of drug use as normative. And finally, we know that children spend 25% of their waking life in school. So as we can see, prevention is key in drug education, and it's important to educate youth prior to harmful exposure, which means we want this education to be starting ideally before years 9 and 10. And even though the effects of prevention are modest in size, when they're applied across the whole population, there can be significant benefits to society. Also, the odds of alcohol dependence decrease by 10% for each year that use is delayed. And we know that educators and schools have a really important job to implement drug education, and this can take a lot of time and resources. So we want to make sure that drug education is effective. And when we're talking about effective, what we mean is that it has outcomes and effects on reducing or preventing alcohol or other drug use. And luckily, there are a number of research studies which have identified the key components that make a prevention program successful and effective. So some of these features that work are interactive programs, programs that are delivered by trained facilitators, programs that are delivered through structured sessions over a number of weeks, and programs that dispel misconceptions about substance use, so that idea that everyone is doing it. And it's also important that programs provide a comprehensive approach. So this means they need to do more than just provide information about drugs, and with an effective program also focusing on developing skills including communication, help seeking, problem solving, stress management, planning, and goal setting. Now I'm going to talk a bit about the comprehensive social influence approach. So this approach comes from a harm minimization standpoint and involves 3 components. So the first is the provision of accurate and relevant information. It's important youth know the facts and evidence about drugs, and this can include information like the adverse effects drugs may have. Providing young people with the tools to make informed decisions, such as resistance training and life skills, and it's important people have the skills to say no and make their own decisions. And finally, again, it's important to challenge that view that everyone is doing it, driving home the message that most young people do not take drugs or drink alcohol. So on the flip side, let's look at what does not work when it comes to drug education. So these are things that do not impact drug and alcohol outcomes. And from the research, things such as non-interactive or lecture-style presentations are ineffective, the use of scare tactics, unstructured dialogue sessions, sessions which only focus on self-esteem and emotional education, and the use of former drug users. And while this is often done with the best intentions, unfortunately the problem here is that there's little evidence to show that these one-off sessions with a guest speaker are effective in preventing drug use. And similar to former drug users, police officers are also another ineffective method. So far we can see that early prevention and drug education is important, and school-based approaches can be effective in reducing use and related harms. And if you're interested in any more information about what I've discussed so far, we have a 3-part fact sheet series, which goes into more depth about effective drug education and lesson planning. Now I'll pass on to our second presenter for today, Dr. Smriti Nepal, who will show you how to access evidence-based drug education and information through the Positive Choices portal.
Thank you, Tara. I'll just share my slides now.
If we can see those.
Thank you. Okay. So thank you again, Tara, and a very good afternoon to everyone watching this. My name is Dr. Smriti Nepal, and I'm the project manager on Positive Choices. As Tara mentioned, I'm going to be talking about the drug education website, Positive Choices. This website was developed to increase the implementation of evidence-based drug education in schools and to assist teachers to overcome some of the barriers, such as time and resource barriers that they face. It was developed in consultation with experts from the field of alcohol and drug prevention and treatment, along with teachers, parents, and students, who are the 3 main user groups for the website. Positive Choices is a one-stop shop for evidence-based drug education, information, and resources. The portal builds on existing information and resources and aims to provide a centralized database where users can find trustworthy and reliable up-to-date information on evidence-based drug education. The resources available on the website are they're based on the needs of the three main user groups that I mentioned just now. All resources can be accessed online, which means that anyone can, with an internet access, can access these resources. And most of the resources available on the website can be implemented with minimal to no additional training. We recently updated the Positive Choices website, and we have now added some new features, such as an improved functionality, search functionality and filtering option. We have simplified and updated the evidence rating system. Resources will be designated one of the three medals that you can see at the bottom of the slide. A new blog section that is now added is called In the Know. This is where we share the latest in research and issues raised in the media. Along with this, for the parent and student pages, we have also added a common questions section where we highlight some of the important drug and alcohol related topics and then link out to relevant resources. Finally, we have also added an interactive quiz to help users test their alcohol and drug knowledge. Positive Choices has a specific portal for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander youth. This was developed in consultation with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. It is the resources on this particular portal are culturally inclusive. They include resources such as stories that were written by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. We have also recently added some resources into, recently translated some of these resources into 3 Indigenous languages. Like I mentioned, the website has resources for three main user groups. These include school staff, parents, and students. The Teachers and School Staff portal provides access to a range of information about drugs and alcohol, such as up-to-date classroom resources which we will discuss in a bit. It has a database of school-based prevention programs that have been tested in research studies to show their effectiveness. It also includes a wide range of fact sheets on various drugs, as well as fact sheets that provide guidance on different alcohol and drug-related topics. We also share the latest resources, research, events, and training opportunities for school through our social media channels and our quarterly newsletter. You can sign up to our newsletter through our website, and also make sure you follow us on the social media channels to stay updated. Like with the teacher portal, the parents and student portals also offer access to accurate and up-to-date information about different drugs and a range of educational games, apps, and videos. Students can find information on topics such as how can I help someone, specifically a friend who might be having a drug problem, how can I say no without losing face, and how to help someone who has taken a drug. Before proceeding further, I would like to give you a quick run through of the website. So I'll just do that now. So this is, before I proceed, Tara, can you just confirm that you can see the website?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, thank you. So this is what the Positive Choices homepage looks like. And at the start, you can choose which user group you belong to and proceed from there, which means that you will only be shown resources specific to that user group. So say, for example, you are a teacher. You can either go to the teacher portal by clicking on the teacher and schools link here, or you can scroll a little further. You can see the tile with the teachers and schools resources here. So you can either click on the text there, or you can click on the image. I will click on the text here. This should take you to the teachers and schools resources. This is what it looks like. As you can see, It starts off with the recommended programs. This is the resource that's on top. And then as you scroll past, you will see the other resources available for school staff and teachers, such as fact sheets, the drugs A to Z fact sheets, webinars, videos and games, ICE related resources, and the apps. If you scroll a little further, you will see the quiz over there, as well as a glossary of terms. This should lead you directly to the glossary. So I will show you how you can go to a particular resource page. All you have to do to get to see a list of resources, simply click on the name of the resource and it will lead you there. For the purpose of this webinar, I will show you how to go to the list of recommended programs. So you simply scroll back to the recommended programs section, and here, click on view all recommended programs. And then the last line of that, just click on that. And that should take you to a list of the complete list of recommended programs that we have. So currently we have 16 recommended programs on the page, which you can see here. We have filters on top of this page. This will be present in each resource type page. So you can choose what filter or what exactly you're looking for by selecting different filters. For example, if you want to look for, if you're looking for resources for years 7 to 8, simply choose that and then update your search. Now this should show you the programs that are relevant only to years 7 and 8. You can similarly choose the other filters based on what your requirements are. This includes what drug type you're after, what curriculum codes you're looking for, and then how much time you have. And also you can choose programs based on their evidence ratings and which audience type you're looking for. Now I'll go back to my slides. Okay, Tara, is it all good?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, I will now detail some of the resources that we have that I just showed you. So starting off with fact sheets and booklets. So we have a range of fact sheets that provide information on different alcohols and various illicit drugs. These are our drugs A to Z fact sheets. These fact sheets include information about what a substance is, how many people are taking it, what are the risks associated with taking it, what complications can occur if someone takes it, etc. The other fact sheets that we have available provide guidance and advice to users on different drug and alcohol related topics. For example, like I previously said, there are a range of fact sheets on different topics such as how teachers can guide students against drug and alcohol related harm, how students can how young people can talk to other young people that they're worried about who might be having drug problems, how to make choices, etc. And we also have information from the Positive Choices website condensed in drug education booklets that are available for students, parents, and teachers. These booklets are one of our most popular and most downloaded items. Here we have the teacher booklet. In the content section of the booklet, you can see the range of information that is provided in this booklet, and it reflects what the content available on the website. The booklets are very useful and easy for you to distribute. They're particularly useful if an incident occurs at your school or something happens or something is reported in the media and you want to provide information to your school community immediately. You can access the digital version of these booklets on our website in a flipbook version, or you can order hard copies of these booklets from our website. These booklets are free to order and they will be delivered free of charge all across Australia. Another resource I would like to take you through is our webinar series. We have 3 webinars every year covering various alcohol and drug-related topics. For example, last year, our webinars covered 2 school-based prevention programs like the Preventure program and a culturally inclusive program called Strong and Deadly Futures program, as well as adolescent cannabis use. These webinars are live sessions facilitated by the Positive Choices team with guest speakers from the field of alcohol and drugs. They run for approximately 30 to 45 minutes with a live question and answer session at the end where the speakers provide answers live. The sessions are usually recorded and are made accessible through the Positive Choices website. You can find our previous webinars on the Positive Choices website. And on the other side, if you want to know about our upcoming webinars, you can find out through our website or through our quarterly newsletters and through our social media channels. The next resource I would like to talk about is educational games. Educational games are promising, and in some cases, they have demonstrated some prevention benefits. They can be associated with increased motivation in students, engagement, and knowledge acquisition. Games such as Pure Rush and the Reconstructors that you can see on the slide have been evaluated in research studies. They are a fun and interactive way of engaging with your students in drug and alcohol education, particularly when you find that students are not receptive to the traditional modes of learning. The next resource that we have are videos. We have a number of short videos about a range of topics, including how to seek help, the effects of drugs on the brain, drugs and alcohol on the young brain, and how parents can communicate effectively with the teenager about alcohol and drug use. The next resource is quick activities. Our portal has some quick activities that are freely available. Teachers can access these worksheets online and print them off for students to complete in class. There are about 15 quick activities currently that you can choose from. And again, they are an engaging way of initiating conversations and guiding classroom discussions. Some of the worksheets include options for quizzes, role play, and other activities that are fun and engaging for students. And finally, the resource type I will talk about are school-based programs. As Tara discussed earlier, drug education is most effective when delivered through a series of structured sessions. A comprehensive approach is effective where the program focuses on developing skills such as communication and help seeking, in addition to providing information about drugs and alcohol. Positive Choices makes access to effective drug education easy by providing a list of recommended classroom programs. For each recommended program, we provide information on the developers, a summary of the program, format in which the program is delivered, its benefits, information about training and associated costs. And we also list the research studies that showcase the effectiveness of these programs. The programs that we recommend on Positive Choices have proven benefits in at least one published research study. As I mentioned previously about our evidence rating system, so we have this the medal rating system at the moment. Based on our evidence rating system, programs that have been tested in schools shown to be effective in multiple randomized controlled trials and at least one systematic review are rated platinum, are rated with a platinum medal. Programs shown to change students' alcohol and drug use behavior and or their associated harm in at least 2 published studies are rated with a gold medal, and programs shown to change behavior in students and or associated alcohol and drug related harm in at least 1 published study are rated with a silver medal. A number of multi-component programs on the website have been designed specifically for Australian context. One such program is the Climate Schools program. I will now hand over to Dr. Lauren Gardner and Scarlett Smout, who will talk about Climate Schools further.
Thanks, Smriti.
Thank you, Smriti.
Awesome. Okay. Well, hi everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to the Positive Choices team for the opportunity to present. So my name is Lauren Gardner, and I'm a research fellow at the Matilda Centre. And I'm just going to give you a bit of a brief summary of the Climate Schools online program, and then hand over to Scarlett, who's going to share some exciting updates about a content refresh and upcoming website relaunch. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Climate Schools, it's an evidence-based universal prevention education program for secondary school students, aiming to empower them to make positive choices to improve their health and well-being. The program consists of 5 modules that are aligned with the state and national health education curriculum, and each module has been co-designed with students and then honed with the student, teacher and parent input. Each module consists of 4 to 6 lessons that are mapped to the curriculum, as I said, and each lesson contains a cartoon storyline where the characters are around the same age as the students, and they can then function as peer educators. So this approach is underpinned by social influence theory, as we know that the most effective way to engage adolescents and drive behaviour change is through peer-led messages, rather than having them come from an authority figure. At the end of each cartoon is a quiz, and students get a summary sheet that reinforces the content and the evidence that was covered in that lesson. And then finally, there are a range of individual and group activities provided that teachers can allocate in class or as homework or even as an assessment. To date, we have conducted 7 randomised controlled trials to evaluate the effectiveness of the program, including 169 schools and over 14,600 students across New South Wales, WA, Victoria, the ACT and Queensland. And the findings have been published in 35 peer-reviewed papers in some of the leading journals in our field. So the trials have found that the Climate Schools programs improve student outcomes by increasing knowledge about mental health, alcohol and other drugs, reducing alcohol consumption and binge drinking, reducing cannabis and ecstasy use, slowing the progression of anxiety and reducing psychological distress, reducing harms from substance use, reducing intentions to use substances, and improving attitudes towards alcohol. The lessons were rated positively by students and teachers, and they're now being used by schools in every state and territory of Australia. And I should note that last year, in recognition of the challenges that students and teachers faced due to the pandemic, we made the programs available free of charge. And this offer is still currently valid. So feel free to head to the website and register if you are interested. Now over to you, Scarlett.
Thanks, Lauren. So yes, as Lauren hinted at, we're really excited to announce that later this year, Climate Schools will be relaunching as Our Futures. So when the program was developed, what we now refer to as climate change was actually still called global warming. And Climate Schools reference the aim to change the school climate around alcohol and other drug use. However, of course, we've seen the need for an update. So we have worked in a significant workshopping phase to arrive at our final name, Our Futures. So the OUR is related to the collective peer-led approach of the program, and Futures reflects the strengths-based approach. So once we had the name, we worked with a branding agency to develop a few possible identities. And then we worked with young people and education experts to select and refine their favourites. So in the chosen identity, which you can see on the screen, the thumbprint represents the individuals within the collective, and it's shaped like a location pin to signify the start of their journey. So as part of the content and website update, we've been working with young people, as well as reviewing the literature and seeking input from peak education bodies. So we've updated all materials to reflect the latest guidelines, including the NHMRC alcohol guidelines, which have just been released. And we've updated the stats in the programs to reflect the latest national studies around substance use, including the latest National Drug Strategy Household Survey. We've also updated the cartoon imagery to incorporate more diversity and reflect new technologies. So you can see here that one of our very first modules had landline phones in it. And now that's been updated to FaceTime calls, and also in some of the other cartoons we've used Snapchat conversations. We've also updated the language in the cartoon scripts to reflect modern colloquialisms that young people have told us that they're using. We worked with young people to cast teenage voice actors to record voiceovers for the cartoons. This is to increase the accessibility for lower literacy or vision impaired students. So we do just have an example here, which I'll quickly play.
This party sounds massive. You can hear the music all the way down the street.
Yeah, Luke's DJ friend bought his decks and speakers.
And we've also added some fact checks into the cartoons. And this is to give the original source an exact statistic where the cartoon characters mention some normative education around drug use. We've redesigned worksheet-based activities into more interactive online activities. And we've redesigned and reprogrammed the website to ensure accessibility and to allow for a screen reader and translation tool. So I believe that the translation tool can go into about 14 languages. It might even be more. So it's very exciting. So once the new site is launched, we're aiming to increase awareness further of the programs in all schools around Australia. Our ultimate vision is to see all young people in Australia receive high quality evidence-based mental health and substance use education. So if you'd like to stay in the loop and be updated first when we're about to launch the new site, or also if you'd like to sign up for the free offer that Lauren mentioned, you can head to the Climate Schools website, which is just climateschools.com.au, and you can sign up to our newsletter, or you can also just email us directly at info@climateschools.com.au. Okay, so now I'm going to hand back over to Smriti.
Thanks so much, Scarlett and Lauren. It definitely sounds like an exciting opportunity to be involved with Climate Schools and then the rebranding as well. Now, let me just share my screen. Perfect. So we know that alcohol and drug use amongst young people is a concern. So to finish off before our Q&A, we're just going to highlight some more of the key messages from this webinar. So it's vital to implement prevention interventions before use begins, and schools are an ideal setting for this. There are a wide range of evidence-based resources for you to use, and these are available on Positive Choices. And finally, effective prevention should be structured and delivered over several sessions, as we've seen in the case study of Climate Schools and soon to be Our Futures. So I'll invite Smriti to join us again. We can get to the Q&A session. So feel free to add any questions that you have to the Q&A panel that you should be seeing on your screen now. And we have already had some come through. And just first, I just want to let everyone know that the booklet page is actually working. You're just getting a bit of an error message there, but feel free to still place your orders. I've checked, and anyone who's placing an order at the moment, we are getting those coming through. So thank you. So Smriti, one of the first questions we have here is, do the recommended programs include programs specific to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students?
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks to the audience member for the question. That's a great question. So unfortunately, at the moment, there are no programs that are specifically for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander youth. We are, however, trialing a program at the moment called Strong and Deadly Futures. Like I said, the trial is ongoing. So it will be a few years before the program will be available for all schools to implement. But that is the only program that we know of at the moment that is available for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander youth. However, there are a number of other resources that you could use in schools, such as our fact sheets, and there are a number of videos from different organizations that work with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. You can have a look at those and see if you find any of those useful.
Definitely. It's a shame that there currently isn't any full programs, but yeah, like you said, there is Strong and Deadly, which is being developed, and hopefully some of the other resources are available that can be used.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we have another one that came through here that said, will there be resources developed for years 3 to 6 as students do begin to learn about alcohol and drugs as early as year 3?
Thank you again for the question. So we have some resources on positive choices for primary school levels, but not much. Again, this is another group that seems to not have many related resources. But as soon as anything becomes available for this age group, we will make it available on Positive Choices, and we will promote them through our newsletter and through our social media to ensure that all our users know about such resources.
Yeah, and I think we should let the audience know as well. We currently have 2 programs listed on Positive Choices that include years 3 to 6. So there's the life skills training, life skills training, and there's another one as well, another life skills training one as well. So if you just use the filters, you should be able to see those. And then there's a few videos as well.
Yep.
And then there's another question here that we may have to send the person some resources that asked this one, but it said, can you recommend direct a good reading for the comprehensive social influence approach?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's one we will have to go back and have a look at. Also depends on what kind of recommendation you are looking for. Like, are you looking for a scientific paper, or are you looking for recommendations for a book? If you let us know, we can then send you recommendations accordingly. Just let us know here, or you can send us an email at info@positivechoices.org.au. Or you can, just let us know here.
Yeah, if you just put your email again in the question and answers to that person, we can send you some resources.
Yep.
And then we've got another question, and you sort of touched on it as well in your presentation. Could you maybe just talk a bit more about the evidence rating and sort of what you mean by an evidence rating?
Evidence rating. So yeah, when we say a resource is evidence-based, we mean that the resource, or the intervention that has been used, or the theory that the intervention is based on, has been tested in multiple research studies and has been found to be effective through rigorous scientific methods. That's what we mean by evidence-based. And in such cases, we look for published studies in different academic journals, or look for grey literature as well that have been published by well-known researchers and have been recommended by well-known researchers and scientists from the scientific community, from the education and drug and alcohol field.
Then we've had another question come through here, and I'll just let those people know that are asking for other recommendations of comprehensive. We can get back to you with your emails and that you've provided. So another question we had here is, some parents are hesitant to allow this sort of discussion with their young children, thinking it may give them ideas to try. What is the evidence around this issue?
That's an interesting question. As far as I am aware, I'm not aware of any such study particularly on this topic. But what I can tell you is that evidence does show that talking openly to young people and giving them the right information does help them to make informed choices. And yeah, that's what I can tell you at this moment on this topic. But yeah, I can definitely have a look, and we can send further information to you about this.
And then we've had another question here that says, Are there any good resources available that schools can provide to external agencies who express interest in providing more selective programs in connection with the school to ensure the programs are helpful and evidence-based?
I'm sorry. I'm just
So
trying
it's sort of, yeah, is there anything we can provide people that they can share with external agencies if they're trying to come in and, checking that the program is evidence-based?
So is this us recommending or is this the school recommending?
It's us giving the school a resource that they can then show an external agency, I'm thinking.
So yeah, I think all the resources that are available on Positive Choices, like I said in my presentation, they're evidence-based. So depending on what you're looking for, it's safe to say that anything you recommend from Positive Choices is reliable, up-to-date information that you can use and recommend to external organizations.
Okay, and then yeah, this person sort of just said in relation to more short-term one-off presentations. So I guess in terms of that, what we could say to them is we have the fact sheets on Positive Choices, which sort of outline what is and isn't effective.
Yeah.
And within that, we've also got some references to some literature. So that could sort of be what you
Yes.
pass on if they are trying to do
Yes,
something which, you've heard in this presentation might not be the most effective method.
definitely. And if there's anything specific that you're after, any specific topic you're interested in, if you just let us know, then we can send through those recommendations for resources for that specific topic.
Definitely. We do have time for a few more questions. So if anyone does have any more, we've just got one more here that says, do you have any resources or recommendations for multilingual or culturally diverse students?
So currently we have a number of resources for students from multicultural backgrounds. Most of these resources we have shared after rigorous review of each resource. And there are school-based programs, videos, and fact sheets for these communities. And we are also currently working on some adapting some of our fact sheets for parents from multicultural backgrounds. These will be available in the coming months. In the meantime, you can use our translator tool that is currently available on the website called Kanzi. Using that tool, you can translate our pages into 21 different languages.
So I can't see any more questions coming through right now, but feel free to still add them if you do think of anything, or as always, feel free to contact us via our email at info@positivechoices.org.au, and we're happy to pass on further specific readings or recommendations for any situation.
And I think it'd be good for Scarlett or Lauren to repeat their email or contact information as well for people to contact them directly.
Yeah, so I think the Climate Schools was just sorry, Scarlett, do you want to say?
It's just info@climateschools.com.au, and Felicity's just popped it in the chat as well.
Okay, thank you, Scarlett.
And yeah, if you just search Climate Schools or Positive Choices in Google, they're usually the first results to come up as well. So just to finish off today, although we have talked about prevention, but if you do know someone who might need immediate or crisis information, please feel free to see the following helplines and websites available on the screen there. And thank you again to our audience for joining us today, and to our presenters, Smriti, Lauren, and Scarlett. Like I said, feel free to send any questions or comments through to info@positivechoices.org.au, and feel free to follow us on our Twitter and Facebook accounts. The handles are just there on the screen to find out the latest in alcohol and other drug research and news. Oh, I think we might have questions. So we had another quick question about costs. So the Climate Schools program is definitely going to be free until the end of term 1, but if you sign up, you'll hear if that gets extended or if there's any other changes to cost updates. And also, when leaving this webinar, you'll be prompted with a short 2-minute survey, and we'd love any feedback that you may have for this webinar or any suggestions for future topics that you would like us to be covered. So thank you again to everyone for joining us today, and we hope you have a lovely afternoon. Thank you.